All right, hi everyone. Welcome to movie class. Why is the screen so yellow? That's not good. I'll see if we can find someone to fix this. If we can't, we might have to change classrooms because we can't watch movies on a yellow screen. But anyway, this week it should be fine. So, film literature. The course is called film literature because we're going to watch movies and then talk about them like they are works of literature. Let's see what we have here on the middle page. The first thing you want to look at is the syllabus. Okay, grading policy. 50% journal entries, 50% final group project, which is a short film. Um, so, and then it says, ignore the course information system. Everything will be calculated on Moodle. So if you go to the course information system and you look at the grading percentages, it will say daily grade 99%, midterm grade 1%, final grade 0%. So that just means we're going to calculate the grades on Moodle and then I will put everything into the daily grade. The midterm grade is 1% because the school says I cannot make it 0%. So you guys get one free point. So if you want to see your grades, please check Moodle and you can find them here, grades. Click on this. I think you should only see your own grades. And the course total will simply be the sum of everything. So you add everything together and that will be your course total. Okay, so in this class, uh, usually what will happen is we're going to watch a movie and then I will magically come up with some discussion questions and you will discuss these questions in small groups and then we'll find out what each group thinks about their question. And that's it. And then after class, when you go home and before midnight, you will have to submit a journal entry here. So after each movie, you have to do one of these. There is a deadline, right? So this is after class ends, and then this is before midnight. Now, in the journal entry, you can talk about the movie, you can talk about the discussion, you can talk about something else that's going on in your life, you can talk about whatever, you can even submit a blank page, and I will give you the points. This is not forcing you to do anything. I'm just inviting you, welcoming you to think about what you have been doing in class or in your daily life and to put your thoughts down on the page. That's it. So I hope that by telling you that you can even submit a blank page, you will not feel pressure to go ask AI to generate some random bullshit because that's just wasting your time and wasting my time. Okay? So as long as you meet the deadline and upload something, that's fine. I'm not even going to read it. Like, I'm not going to spend an hour every week reading your journal entry. I'll save them for like when I'm really bored and then I may take a look. This is really just for you to put down your thoughts and your feelings. In fact, like it says same day before midnight, but like if you're late by 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 days, that's fine. As long as you remember to upload something. There is an actual deadline, but I'm not going to tell you when. Otherwise, you're just going to wait for the deadline, right? Try to aim for the same day. So it's after each movie. There are 10 journal entries. So we're going to watch at least 10 movies. Exciting. Questions about the journal entries? Great. And then we have the second part is the group short film. So as I said, you will be discussing the questions in small groups. So you will have small groups, and you will be working with your group to create a short film. And then on week 16, you will present your short film to the class, and everybody will give you a grade. I will give you a grade. Your classmates will give you a grade. Your fellow group members will give you a grade. And that will be 50%. Um, I will divide you into small groups on week 3. So you don't have to worry too much about this right now. But the instructions are already on Moodle. So we might as well talk about this. Make a short film under 15 minutes long, because we don't have that much time, with both English and Chinese subtitles. Because we do have some classmates who don't read Chinese, please offer English and Chinese subtitles. So that means that you can speak any language because we have subtitles. Upload it to YouTube and then send me the link. On week 16, I will invite each group to the front. You will introduce your short film. We are going to watch the film, and then you will answer questions from the audience and from me. And then your classmates will give you a grade. You will give a grade to your classmates. That's how that works. So when you give a grade, you will be using this peer review sheet. I'll remind you when the time comes, but for now, we can take a very brief look. The peer review sheet looks like this. There are 2 parts. For other groups, give them a score from 1 to 5. For your own group members, also give a score from 1 to 5, but this is based on the level of contribution. How much did each group member do in this project? If they did a lot, you give them 5. If they did a little bit, you can give them 3. If they did very little, give them 1. You can only give them 0 if you don't even know their fucking name. You've never seen this person before. Then you can give them 0. Other than that, give some kind of score. These scores for your own group members will not be directly translated into their final grade. So don't worry if you give them a 5 or you give them a 4, will they get a lower grade? Don't worry about that. I will only adjust a person's grade if this score is too low. So like a 2 or a 1 or a 0, I will adjust their grade. But you don't have to worry about 5, 4, or 3. That's just to tell me how much did they do. So I understand what's going on in your group. For the other groups, how should you decide the score for their short film? Look at 2 things. How good is their design? Like the thing that they want to do, the idea in their mind. Is that a good idea? And then the second thing is, how well did they execute that design? When they turned their idea into a short film, did it turn out okay? Or were there like mistakes, or were things not very realistic or something? And you look at those 2 things and you give them a score from 1 to 5. Now, I do have to remind you, please be generous with your score, because a 5 is 100, right? But a 4 is already 80, and a 3 is 60. So some people will think, oh, it was good, but it wasn't perfect. I'll give them a 4. what you're really doing is, because it's not perfect, you only give them 80 points. So please try to be generous. Even if it's not perfect, you can still give them a slightly higher grade. And your personal final grade for this project will be 50% from me, 50% is the average of everybody else's score. And then if your group members think you did not do very much, I may adjust your score downward. Otherwise, like the left part will not influence your grade too much. Okay, questions about this? Okay, so don't worry yet. I'll remind you later. But you should know that this project will take a lot of time. It will take more time than you think. Even more than that. It will take a lot of time. But you don't have to worry about that until week 3. Okay, so that's the grading policy. And I've also talked about how each week will go. Let's take a closer look at the schedule. So week 1, introduce the course, introduce films and filmmaking. So I'm going to give you some basic ideas about films and how to think about them, how to make them. And then as the example, we're going to watch a short film called Salt that is freely available on YouTube if you want to go home and watch it again. Next week, we're going to begin by watching a movie called Day for Night. This will be the only film this semester that is not in English. It's in French. I'm very sorry, but I've tried very hard to find a movie that works just as well, and there is nothing better. This is the best film to watch to learn about making movies. And then after the film ends, I'll also talk more about filmmaking, and it says documentaries. So I guess we're going to talk about documentaries. Week 3, we're going to watch a documentary. Oh, that's why we're going to talk about. Okay, yeah, I get it. So week 3, we're going to watch a documentary called Side by Side, which is talking about post-production. To make a movie, you have 3 stages. The first stage, you come up with the idea, you find the people, you find the money, you prepare everything. That's called pre-production. In Chinese, 前置. Then you pick up a camera and you actually make the movie. That is called production, 制作. After you finish production, you have all of these recordings. Then you have to put everything together to make one single movie. That is called post-production, 后置. So the documentary Side by Side focuses on post-production. It especially focuses on the difference between traditional post-production and post-production in the digital age. Like, yeah, we are now very deep into the digital age. You can even ask AI to help you. This movie was made in 2012. That was the very beginning of the digital age. iPhones and Twitter came out around that time. So it's already kind of old. But it is interesting to see how using a computer changes the way that you make a movie. It's much more than about like efficiency. It changes the quality of the movie. It changes your work schedule. So that will be very interesting to see. And then I'll divide you into small groups. Starting from week 4, basically each week we're going to watch a surprise movie. I know what it is, but I'm not going to tell you. I will tell you these movies, I believe all of them, most of these movies I have not seen either. They will be new to me as well. So we're going to discover them together. So like some people have asked me, if I've never seen these movies, how did I choose the movies? And the answer is, I picked movies that I have heard other people say is worth watching, or for some reason or another, it seems like this could be an important movie. So I don't guarantee that every film will be good, but every film will be worth talking about. Week 6, no class. Week 8, we're going to watch a long film. We have 3 hours. We should make use of this time. We're going to watch a long film. And so week 9, oh, this must be the old version. There's no midterm exam. But week 9, we're going to talk about that long movie. And then the rest of that day will be time for you to discuss with your group members about the final project. And then we start again. Week 12, we're going to watch a horror movie. I put that on the schedule because I like to surprise you, but I don't like to surprise you that much, right? When you walk into class, you should know that the movie could be scary. I also don't like to be scared at the movies, but horror films are very, very important. There are some things that you can only say with a horror film. So I'm going to suffer along with you. We're going to watch a horror movie. Week 13, I have chosen a film, but I encourage you guys, if you want to share a film with the class, you can recommend a film to me. And if we find a suitable film, we're going to watch that on week 13. So, if you have some ideas, feel free to tell me. And then week 14 is another long film. Week 15, we're going to talk about that long film, and that will be there will be some more time for you to discuss your short film with your group members. And then week 16, we see your films. Questions about the schedule? All right. So let's see, what else do we have here on Moodle? Wait, what's going on? Okay, so that's the syllabus that's here. Class emails. I will try to tell you everything you need to know during class. But if I forget something or if something comes up during the week and you have to know immediately, I will post a class email and Moodle will send an email to you if you have turned on notifications. So to make sure you can receive a Moodle email, click on this, then click on this. And the one that you want is subscribed forum posts. Make sure to turn that on. And that way you can receive emails from Moodle. If you want Moodle to tell you when I give you a grade, you want to turn on this one, assignment notifications. Okay. Later today, I'm going to start talking about filmmaking. I'm going to use this PDF file called Filmmaking Departments and Vocabulary. If you want a paper copy, tell me. I will give you a paper copy if you want. Otherwise, you can just download this off of Moodle. After each movie, I will put the file in this OneDrive folder. So if something comes up and you have to miss class, you can go home and download the movie yourself and watch it. And then you can look at the discussion questions that we talk about in class. Some people do not know how to add subtitles to a movie file. So I have recorded a video to show you how to do that. Movies are a kind of literature, so if you're interested in how AI has changed the way that we read and study literature, here is a PowerPoint that you can read. If you're interested in learning more about films and filmmaking, more than we have time for in class, this is a YouTube playlist of videos related to films that you can watch in your free time if you're interested. Let's see, what else do we have here? After each movie, I will also post a piece of writing that I think explains the movie or like analyzes the movie pretty well, in a good way. So if you're interested in learning more about the movies that we watch, you can wait for me to post those and you can read those as well. Since the first three movies we already know, right? Today we're going to watch the short film Salt. Next week, Day for Night, and then week 3, Side by Side. So I've already prepared reading material if you want to read that. Journal entries, submit them here. Group project. Okay, and then the last thing is extra credit. So I think you can tell that it shouldn't be too hard to pass this course, right? But if something happens and you do need more points, you can do the extra credit. This is not an excuse for me to give you points. It's not just like, I want to give you points, but I need you to do something first. No, the extra credit will take a little bit of work. At the same time, it is not a punishment. I'm not going to force you to do something just because you don't have enough points. It's not like a random essay. Like, I'm going to ask you to read this and then write something, but I think this is worth reading. I think it's a good essay for college students to read. So even if you are going to pass, I still encourage you to take a look and try for the extra credit, and you can get even more points. Now, the extra credit does have a word count. 1,000 meaningful words in English or 2,000 in Chinese, or if you use another language, I will put it into Google Translate and the output must be at least 1,000 English words. So you do need to know how many words you have written. So you might run into this problem. If you use Google Docs and then you save it as a Microsoft Word file, you might see something like this. You see the problem with this picture? It says 5 words, but there are only 2. So what it's doing is it's counting each letter as a word. If you need 1,000 words and this happens to you and then you submit it, it will only be around like 200 words. So the best way to avoid this problem is don't use Google Docs. Just write it in Microsoft Word. But if you do use Google Docs and then you save it as a Microsoft Word file and this happens, the only way that I have found to solve this problem is to copy everything, open something that is not Google Docs and not Microsoft Word, paste it in, open a new Microsoft Word document, copy from there, paste it into the new document. Very annoying. Just don't use Google Docs. But that's the extra credit. You can do this anytime. There's no start date. Okay, so that's Moodle. Questions about Moodle? Yes. Oh, so if you take a look at the journal entries now, you can't submit anything yet because it hasn't started. Yeah, so I'm only, according to the deadline, I'm only giving you like 6 hours to write each journal entry. But of course, if you need more time, you can still try to submit a late entry. Okay, great. Other questions about Moodle or about this course? Okay, so if you don't have questions there, let's begin today's lecture about films and filmmaking. Movies, images on screen. We all love them. That's why you're here. But one thing to remember when we're watching a movie with your brain turned on is that everything you see is a choice. Somebody decided that it should look and sound like this. So like think about what you see. Is there a person? What do they look like? Like what is their hairstyle? What does their face look like? Is there makeup? What are they wearing? What colors are they wearing? What are they doing? Are they looking up, down, left, right? Are they moving? Are they interacting with someone else? Which person did they choose as the actor? Why this person? Why not someone else? If they are talking to somebody else, can we see both of them at the same time? If we can only see one person, where are we looking? Which parts can we see? Which parts can we not see? Are they moving? If they are moving, in which direction are they going? Why are they going in that direction? What can we see of their movement? Are we watching them walk toward us? Are we watching them walk away? In the background, where are they? Are they outdoors? Are they indoors? If they're outdoors, what kind of outdoors? Is it the city? Is it the country? Can you tell? What's the weather like? Is it sunny? Is it rainy? Is it cloudy? Is it night? Why? If it's indoors, what kind of place is it? Is it a home, an office, a school? What does that place look like? What do the walls look like? What objects are in the background? What do those objects tell us about the space and the owner of that space? Do any of the objects move? Are the actors playing with some kind of object? If they are, what is that object? Why are they playing with it? And what's so special about that object? Also, what color is the image? For example, today our image is very yellow. When you're watching a movie, the image could be yellow, it could be blue, it could be green, it could be red, it could be black and white. Why? Why did they choose this color? If the image moves, if the camera moves, how is it moving? Is it going up and down? Is it looking left and right? Is it moving left and right? Is it going in or out? Are we getting closer? Are we getting further away? Why? Why is the camera moving like this? And after this image ends and we move to the next image, what are we skipping in the middle? What is the film not showing us? Why are we moving from this image to that image? What's important about this image? How are the two images related? Are they from a similar angle? Are they from opposite angles? Are we looking at the same thing? Are we looking at different things? After a scene and we move to the next scene, again, what are we skipping? What does the film tell us is not important? Why not? And how does the next scene connect with the previous scene? What's the relationship? Are they saying similar things? Are they saying different things? And all of that is just the image. We also have the sound. What do you hear? People talking? People singing? Do you hear sound effects like somebody walking across the ground, somebody opening a door? Do you hear the wind? Do you hear water? Do you hear rain? If they're playing with an object, can you hear the object? Why are we hearing these sounds and not those sounds? Is there music? Is there silence? Is there some weird background noise? Why? Everything you see and hear is a choice. And choices have reasons. When you think about those reasons, that's when you begin to think about what is the movie, not just what is it trying to tell us, but what is it actually telling us? Now, filmmaking is a collaborative effort. It is almost impossible, not impossible, but almost impossible to make a movie by yourself. So some of these choices will not be a person's first choice. They might be the result of compromise. Sometimes filmmakers run out of money, and so the reason for the choice is to save money, or to save time, or to save resources. Sometimes actors' schedules don't work out, and so the choice might be because they need somebody else in that scene at that time. Regardless of the reason, everything is a choice. Even something that you capture accidentally during production. When you get to post production, you choose whether to keep that accident. Everything is a choice. And so we can talk about anything we see or anything we hear. And we can think that all important question, why? Let me give you an example. We're going to watch the short film Salt from 2017. If you're watching at home on YouTube, I probably cut this part out for copyright purposes. First question. How long was the movie? 2 minutes. Good. Did it feel like 2 minutes? It felt, depending on your how invested you were, maybe it felt shorter than 2 minutes because it was over so fast. Maybe it felt longer than 2 minutes because there was so much going on. But it was 2 minutes. Now, how long do you think it took to make this movie? I don't know, but to me, it feels like at least 6 months for 2 minutes. Of course, your movie probably will not be that high quality, so you won't need 6 months, but it will take longer than you think to make a short film. Okay, let's go through this short film. I'd say like shot by shot, so part by part, and we'll take a look at what's going on in each shot so that we can see how the filmmaker's choices affect the film as a whole. First shot. We don't really know what we're looking at, but they are like storage canisters. They hold things. So we know that we're in a place where they need lots of something to be prepared. And you can see like there are storage canisters in the front, there are storage canisters in the back. So whatever this is, they need a lot of it. Then we hear the sound of coughing. If you've seen a movie, you know that when somebody is coughing, that's never a random cough. Coughing is always meaningful. So, and they keep coughing. So this person is seriously sick. Then we get a closer shot of what these things are. It looks like they can be opened from the top. So these canisters are made to be used. Now, this shot goes by very, very fast. So you may not know what you're looking at, but your mind, your unconscious knows. Even if I ask you, you can't say what it is, your mind knows in what direction we are going. Then we have a very fast shot of this. Can you tell what this is? It's a microwave, weiboru. At this point, we don't know why we're looking at this. It just looks like more stuff. So at this point, it's telling us that this space is full of stuff. So maybe it's not used very often. Maybe there's nobody going to clean this space every day. So the idea here seems to be lack of use. It's a space that people don't use very often. Oh, sorry, not a microwave. It's the hospital bed. Yeah, so with the light coming on, now we can see everything. This is the first time we get a clear image of everything. You can see the bed is a hospital bed, not a bedroom bed. That goes in with the coughing girl. What do you see in the background? Paper. Lots and lots of paper all around the walls. This is a classic thing to see in horror films, right? Usually we don't put random paper on the wall unless you have nowhere else to put it, or like you want to share a very important message with somebody. Here, for some reason, there's paper everywhere. Notice the colors. We've been looking at blue things, but the light is yellow. So it's a contrast. It's telling us that this yellow light is the source of warmth and safety. It's the source of hope. A lot of films today like to use blue and yellow because they have such a strong opposite contrast. They're very noticeable when you put them against each other. And we also see a second person, right? We hear one person coughing. We now see a second person. The camera has moved up just a little bit. Logically, it's to move us from these canisters up to the actors. But at the same time, it reveals more of the wall. You see these? Christian crosses, common symbols to defend against the devil. And you see two, maybe this is the third one, can't really tell, but there's more than one. So there's something really evil happening in this space. Now we focus in on the actors. Even though we hear the girl coughing, the first person we get a clear look at is the mother figure. We don't know if it's really the mother, but the mother figure. And this tells us that this movie is actually about her, not about the girl. She's trying to get her to breathe, to help her stop coughing, okay? It's not working, so she decides to do something else. And then here we see the girl isn't just coughing, she has an oxygen mask on, she's very sick. And yet the mother figure is leaving her, which means that there's something even more important than the girl that she has to do. Okay, so she's looking for something. Maybe she's looking for medicine. You'll notice these very fast shots, right? See if we can jump back a little bit. Notice how many shots we have from starting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So going from trying to get the girl to breathe and then looking for things and then coming back to the girl, it's 5 shots, which means that the filmmakers had to put the camera in different locations, had to figure out the angle, had to get the actors to perform 5 times or maybe 4 times. This one and the first shot seem like they're from the same angle. So that's why making a film can take a lot of work. Or it's one reason why. Okay, so at this point, the mother figure cannot find what she's looking for. So she's now going back to the girl, trying to comfort her. Sweetheart, I'm going to have to go downstairs. And you can see the girl shaking her head. She's terrified that her mother figure is going to leave her alone. So at this point, maybe we're thinking like part of her fear is because she's sick, but also there's something creepy going on. Maybe that is related to her fear as well. But anyways, her mother, let's just say it's probably her mother, needs something and it's downstairs. You'll be safe. Just stay inside the circle. Now, if we had been paying attention, we would have noticed that there is a circle.
You can see part of it here. But at this point, she says, stay inside the circle. And so, of course, the next shot, we're going to see what circle? And we don't just see the circle, it's a logical camera movement. We were focusing on the characters, and as the mother leaves from the bottom of the screen, the camera goes down to follow the mother and show us that circle. At this point, we all know it's going to be a horror movie. Because unless there's something really strange or evil going on, you don't need to draw a circle around a hospital bed. This has to be horror. So at this moment, we have not seen the monster, but we are already starting to feel scared because the background has like crosses and paper all over the walls. Because this circle seems so important, it's defending against something. We don't even need the monster, and we're already starting to feel scared. So that's the end of the first scene. Now we're moving into the second scene. What did we skip? We went from inside the bedroom to the top of the stairs. We skipped the hallway outside the bedroom. The film is telling us there's nothing important there. But if you put yourself in that situation, is that true? We can come back to this question later. Okay, so we're on the stairs. The mother is running down the stairs. Look at the color. The first scene was blue and then yellow. Now we have green. How does this green color make you feel? Is it a natural color? No, right? It's a very strange color. So it's trying to make you feel like something strange is happening. Something is wrong with the space inside this house. And then she slips and falls. Of course, in a horror movie, falling is a common way to make us feel excitement and danger. But this film is very careful to show us, how does she fall? She steps on a book. So it's not just a random fall. It's a very well acted fall. Let's take a look again. Now, you also notice when she begins the fall, it's one shot. When she gets to the ground, it's a second shot, which means it can be done in a safe way. The first shot, when she steps on the book and she goes down, if she does fall that way, it's very easy to get hurt. You can imagine maybe at the bottom of the stairs, they had like a mat or like a mattress to catch her. And then for this shot, she kind of prepares to jump and then jumps down like sideways onto her shoulder. You'll notice that she's moving as she falls. The movement takes away some of that energy to make it less painful. It's still not comfortable, but it's a safer kind of fall. So it's using camera tricks to make the stunt safer. And then we get to the bottom floor. We notice in the background, these objects are covered, which again tells us this space is not used very often. And then the green light is coming from outdoors. So none of the lights are on this floor. Okay, very fast shot. She falls, and then the canister that she's holding drops away. And instead of getting up, right, her first action is not to get up, it's to grab this thing. This is more important than her own safety. We still don't know why. We just know that it's very important. And it's probably linked to the circle. Okay, so again, before she gets up, first she draws a circle. And at this point, we might remember the name of the film, Salt. That's probably what she's using. And that's probably why there are so many canisters on the second floor, because it's a kind of protection. Okay, hang on 1 second. Grab. Notice the camera movement. I love this camera movement. She is drawing the circle counterclockwise, but the camera is moving clockwise in the opposite direction. When you put it together, it makes her movement seem faster. Let's take a short break. We'll continue after the break. The mother has just drawn a circle around herself, and so logically, she is now looking in the direction that she wants to go. And the camera gets there first. This is a very classic horror camera direction. The character is looking at us. They want to go where we are, but we don't know what's here. But we don't know what is in this room. So when the character moves toward us, it's preparing us for some kind of surprise. They know what they're looking at. We don't know. But it's a different room, right? We can see the door frame. It's a different room. And usually when we get to a different room, something else will happen. Also, like, are you hearing this noise in the background? What is this noise? So there's a very deep bass soundtrack, right? Oh, in the background. It's making us feel nervous. It's music. It's not part of the story. It's music, but it's music that makes us feel nervous. And then when she looks in this direction, we can hear something falling. Something has hit something and something is falling, which means we are not alone in this room. There's already something else in this room. And we see what it is. It's some kind of monster. Of course, it's almost a jump scare. A jump scare is when the image and the sound come together to scare the crap out of you. It's almost a jump scare, and here's why. We see the monster before it moves. It is not the exact same moment. If the first time we see the monster is here, that would be a jump scare. But we see the monster and then the monster jumps. So we're just a little bit prepared. And then, of course, the monster has a weird monster sound to make sure we know that it's not a human being and it's not like a dog. Monster jumps, mother runs. Okay, so this is a very interesting moment. We earlier saw her draw that circle, right? I think most of us, we assumed that she had finished the circle. But no, she only finishes it in this moment. Why? It's for us. It's for the audience. If the circle was already finished, the monster would not jump. If the monster didn't jump, we would not see the circle blocking the monster. This moment is created so that we understand the logic of the circle. And now that we see that she had not finished the circle, we can go back and we can notice why she doesn't finish it. The sound distracted her. So in fact, she stops drawing the circle to look in this direction. If you are in this situation, you would not do this. This is purely because it's a movie and it needs to tell the audience about the logic of the circle. Okay, so first of all, we see that the monster can get hurt. We heard the soundtrack, right? It goes, rah, so it got hurt. So we know the monster is not invincible. It is possible to defeat this monster. That's very important. if you can't defeat the monster, what are you even doing, right? So we have to understand it is possible to defeat the monster. Listen again, a bit more. Did you hear the difference? Aggressive jump and then like a hurt or wounded sound as it gets knocked back. So it's using sound to give us information. And then we see the mother running on and she destroys the salt circle. That we had a specific shot, right, of her stepping on the salt. And this tells us that the circle is no longer important for her because she's moving on to a different space. It also reminds us that now she is in danger. Every time she's outside the circle, she is in danger. Okay, we enter the new space and then she falls again. This time is not as good a fall because we don't see why she falls. But instead, our focus is on the monster. Very classic situation, right? Monster's running after you, you run away, but you fall. But there's a door. So logically, we expect her to close that door. Oh, what a great shot. Oh, I love that transition. Let's look at that again. She closes the door, but like the direction of the camera moves. We're looking at it horizontal. Let's see if I can grab this. Yeah, we're looking at it horizontally, and then we go back to our regular vertical. Why? I think it's because it adds to the power of closing this door. Imagine you have a shot of her just closing the door. Fine, makes sense. We get it. But when you add the door closing in this direction as well, it makes it seem more final. It's like you're closing the door twice. And also it's moving from the top down. So this kind of closing is closing downward, like you're closing a hole in the ground, like you're closing a hole to hell where the monster came from. It adds to the idea that the monster is an evil monster. Also, it looks really cool. Okay, door closed. But we know that the monster is only really scared of salt. So we don't expect this situation to stay safe for very long. We also notice, hopefully you have noticed, this room has light. When she got to the first floor, there was no light, but this room has light. Seems kind of strange. Did we see her turn on the light? No. So why does this room have light? First of all, because we need to see what's going on. But we will later see the monster controlling the light as well. So it could be a trap by the monster. Ooh. So as we expected, this is not a safe barrier against the monster. So now the mother is thinking, how can I make this safer? Right, she's looking in front, boom, and then she's looking toward us. This tells her that her thoughts have changed direction. She's no longer just resting, she's thinking about the next step. Okay, you'll notice we don't see what the mother does. We know she did something, but we don't see it. Now we are following the monster. We are in the perspective of the monster. The monster doesn't know what's on the other side of the door. It barges in and then it takes a look around. And then we see the trap, right? It looks around, it doesn't look down. And so the mother is able to corner the monster in this circle of salt. And of course, that shot is from the top, right? We want to see the circle close. The best way is from the top. Now that the monster is inside the circle, the mother can kind of take a short rest. take a look to make sure that the monster is controlled. And we see more images of this room. Still weirdly green, greenish blue with yellow lights. And also lots of things are covered. We have boxes of stuff. So it does feel like when they first moved in, they encountered the monster very quickly. They didn't have time to unpack everything. We also see a fireplace. So this is probably the living room. Okay, you'll notice that this shot takes a bit more time. A lot of the shots we've been seeing are very close, focused on specific things. They end quickly. It's a lot of action. But here, the mother takes a step back. We see the top half of her body. We see her change direction. The movie has slowed down because the monster is no longer dangerous. And now the mother can do what she came here to do. Whoa, whoa, that was great. Okay, so she opens the thing. She looks inside. Where is it? Okay, she opens the thing. We see what she sees, which is like it's medicine, but there's also some other stuff. And then we get an even closer shot of the medicine. Why? Why split this into two shots? The mother, remember, the mother is still very nervous. The monster is currently not dangerous, but it's still right there. So she is in hyper excited mode. She's in fight or flight. She has adrenaline. So she is hyper focused. The first shot shows us what she sees. This second shot shows us where her focus is. This is what she's looking for. It's like the target locking on. And so it's an even closer shot so that we know this is what she's looking for. And then the lights start blinking, which is not normal. She knows it's not normal. She doesn't know why they're blinking. She doesn't know what the danger is. She just knows it's not normal. Okay, again, the circling camera. On the one hand, it's trying to tell us that the whole room is flashing. But it's not circling the room. It's circling the actor. Because we don't care about the room. We care about how the actor feels about the room. We know that everything is flashing because we can see the lights flashing on her face. But we care about the actor, not the room. Okay, the TVs, really cool. So it's not just the light. The TVs tell us that it's not about light, it's about electricity. Something is happening to all of the electricity in this room. Microwave. That's the first appliance. Like, lighting is for lighting, TVs are for entertainment, but the microwave is a tool. And it's a powerful tool. So something might happen from this microphone. Ooh. Okay, the fan comes down, starts blowing. Maybe at that moment we know that the fan might blow the salt away, but the movie makes sure to show us. And the angle is perfect, right? It opens up right in front of the monster. This tells us that it's the monster controlling the situation. It's not random. The monster is doing this. Also, like, the monster has up to this point looked like CGI, right? Looked like it's animated. But these are real hands. This is a real person. So it's not 100% CGI. You need an actor in the middle to make it feel more real. Man, look at the makeup on those hands. That's awesome. Okay. That probably took like 2 hours or something. And then it disappears. Oh my God. Again, like, does this make sense for the monster to disappear like this? I mean, to make its movements unpredictable, maybe. But if it could disappear, why didn't it do that earlier? So really, this is less realistic. It's more a strategy by the film to make us feel scared in a new and different way. Just when you think you understood what's going on, the movie gives you something new. The mother also seems surprised. But, now that the monster is gone, she's going to take this chance. Okay, so she comes into this room. We see the walls full of paper, so we know that this is her daughter's bedroom. What did we skip? Everything. We moved directly from the living room to the bedroom. We skipped the hallway. We skipped the stairs. It's telling us that nothing special happened there. But if you imagine that you are the mother, that journey up the stairs past the hallway, that must have been terrifying. You don't know where the monster is. But the film wants us to feel scared in specific ways. It does not want us to feel scared about the journey. At this point, it wants us to feel safe, right? The mother has reappeared with the medicine. So this is more of like a positive moment. And a horror film needs both scary and not scary. If everything is scary, then nothing is scary. Okay, she gets back. Okay. And then on the door, right, you see another cross. So many crosses. Okay. That was not a cut, right? That was a movement. The camera moved over. It wants to make sure we know this is what the mother sees. It's a direct connection between the mother and the bed. It's not just showing us. It's showing us that she sees this. Okay. The daughter, the mask is gone. It looks like she's almost dead. And then the camera starts doing this weird thing again. So this has two purposes, right? First, we get a closer shot of the girl's face, good acting. But secondly, it tells us that the mother feels unsettled. It is a surprise and not a good surprise. Her whole world has turned upside down. Remember, at this moment, we're still thinking, where's the monster? And it looks like the monster got to the bedroom first. So if that's true, and if the monster has killed or is killing the girl, you can imagine how like painful and shocked the mother might feel. That's what this camera angle is telling us. Her whole world is being turned upside down. Okay, but she's still breathing, so she's still alive. We hear that very clearly. Okay, now we're exiting the house. She's carrying her daughter. Once again, we have skipped the whole middle journey because that's not what the film wants us to focus on. Okay, oh, that was also a great shot. So we know that the mother is going somewhere. It turns out she's going to the car. The camera. Do we see the mother in this shot? No, do we? Is that the mother? Yes, we do. Yeah. Okay. So it's following the mother to the car, but it's a handheld camera. It's not a smooth movement. So like it's shaky to put us in that situation. Just like the mother is like rushing to the car. She doesn't care about her shoes. She doesn't care about how good she looks. The same way, the film doesn't care whether the movement is smooth. The point is to get there fast. And that idea comes across from the shaking camera. Well, you'll notice that the shaking camera isn't like wildly shaking. Did you guys see the original Hunger Games movie starring Jennifer Lawrence? Especially the first one when like Katniss is running around in the forest before she's chosen or before she volunteers. or in like basically any other action movie, there's a lot of shaking cameras. It's supposed to make you feel excited. The problem is they shake the camera too much. You can only notice the like the main character. Everything else is blurry. You don't know what's going on. This level of shaking here is perfect. If you really look at it, it's not really shaking. It's just like the guy holding the camera is moving. That's it. But because most camera movements are smooth, so when it's not smooth, it feels like shaking. You don't have to do too much. Okay, in the car, we're looking from the front of the car, right? She puts her daughter in the back seat. Again, we notice the yellow light. The yellow light is a symbol of hope and possible safety. So the mother is hoping that the car can bring them to safety. It could be a safe space, that kind of thing. It also symbolizes that the daughter is not dead. There's still hope. Okay, this movie was shot in Australia. So they drive on the other side of the road. The mother has to walk around the car. Okay, this is also not very logical, right? If you were the mother, if I were the mother, I would put my daughter on the same side of the car. But anyway, it's to show us a picture of the car, is to create more danger because we know when the mother's running around, the monster might strike. It's good to show us the car, to show us what the car looks like. We do need to know this. Okay, drew a circle around the car. She's trying to start it. Again, the lights are yellow. Even though it's a red light, it looks yellow because of it's called color timing. The color of the image makes it look more yellow. Okay, but I do have to say, why are you drawing a circle around the car? Isn't the car going to move? Anyway, like at this point, we're near the end of the movie. The logic is kind of breaking down a little, but that's fine because we're already invested in the movie. We care so much about these characters. We don't really notice these small illogical points. But the idea is, wherever the circle is, they're supposed to be safe. Okay, okay. And now she's trying to start the car. This shot is also quite good. It's focusing on this one detail, the lights. Thank you. Okay, so we hear the car is trying to start, but just to make sure we know what's going on, the lights also match the sound. So we can see the car trying to start. In real life, the lights don't work like that. If your car doesn't start, the lights don't go like they just don't. They usually light up first and then the engine tries to start. So this is just for the movie. Right? She's frustrated, and then we hear the sound of thunder. Thunder is never good. Maybe we have not yet realized why it's not good in this case, but thunder is never good. Okay, this is also again for the movie. Water, but the mother looks to her side. If you're driving a car and you want to see if it's raining, where do you look? Through the front. Why would you look to the side? Two reasons. First, for this shot, water flows down slower if the windshield is like not as steep. We need the water to flow down fast. The second reason is because we need the mother to turn her head. If you're like trying to start your car and you look up, that's a very small movement. But if you're trying to start your car and you look sideways, that's a big movement. It's more obvious. Movie logic, people. Okay, and then we get the rain. This is very obviously fake rain. There's somebody standing beside the car holding a garden hose and the water is coming down. And then we realize, oh, that's why that's bad, because it erases the salt. Again, with the tilting camera, we know that something is coming, and then boom, and of course, it is the monster. But of course, the monster doesn't come from the side, it comes from the top. And then like the lightning shows that the danger is back, and then end. One more thing. Look at all these people. 2 minutes. And it took all these people about 6 months to make this movie. I want to remove this, but like, can I? Yes, we can. Okay, great. So look at what these people are doing. Director, written by, produced by. A producer is a manager. Production company, and then starring. These are the three actors. Alice Lowe is the mother. Belle Gadsden is the daughter, and then James Swanton is the monster. Cinematographer in charge of the image. Production designer in charge of the environment. Editor in charge of putting the images together. Costume designer, casting director. These people are in charge of finding the actors. Composer, person who makes the music. Sound design, the person who puts the sound together. Sound recordist, person who gathers all the other sounds. First AD, first AD, floor runner, these are administrative people. They are part of the management. They help to make sure that everybody else can do their job well. Production managers, director's PA, these are all administrative people. Stunt coordinator, this person is in charge of the fights and the falls, anything physical. Stunt double, so when the mother falls, like when she falls down the stairs onto the floor, we see her back, but not her face, because it's not the same person. It's a stunt double. Creature stunt double, okay? When we don't need the creature to do acting, when we only need the creature to run around, they have another person to do that. Stunt rigger, stunt assistants, these people help to create those moments. SFX means special effects. So all of the stuff to do with computers, that's these people. Hair and makeup, actual makeup artists, art department. So these people help to create that environment. And then Steadicam operator, these people pick up the camera and actually record. A grip is someone who moves things around. You need to move equipment, you need to set things up. That's what the grip does. And then pyrotechnics. This means anything to do with fire. Did we see fire? No, but we saw something very close. Electricity. That's what this person is doing. So yeah, 2 minutes, you have like 30 people working 6 months to create this. You think it's worth it? I think it's a pretty good short film. Okay, I'm gonna turn on the lights. Do you have questions about this part? Okay, so like if you want to take all of this knowledge and watch this again at home, you can. It's on Moodle. So that's the appreciation of films, like what's going on, how does a film work. Now we're going to talk about making films. And I'm not going to finish today. We're going to keep going tomorrow. We can think about a film crew as divided into several departments. Each department is in charge of one part of the filmmaking process. The lead department is called the direction department or video village, because today what happens is a director looks at the actors, but they also look at a screen to see that the image is what they want. So a director will often be sitting somewhere slightly far away from the actors. They'll be looking at 2 or 3 screens. So it's like a little video village. So we have the director. The director's job is to provide a vision
for the film. What is it going to be? How is it going to look? How is it going to feel? What are we trying to do here? If a director has a strong vision, then everybody knows what they're trying to do. They can all move in the same direction. If the director does not have a strong vision, then different people will have different ideas. Things won't go together. There's more chance for chaos. So it's the director's job to make sure everybody is going in the same direction, trying to do the same thing. And so they oversee the entire process. All of the other departments, when they do something important, they have to check with the director to make sure, is this what we want to do? And the director makes that decision. To help the director, we have assistant directors. As we saw in the cast list, they're often called ADs. Assistant directors have different jobs. The first assistant director helps manage the set. So when the actors are acting, and then the director yells, cut, then the first assistant director goes and takes care of the actors, sees if the director needs any help, manages what's going on set. The second assistant director manages the cast off set. So like when the actors are finished with this scene and they go to their break room or their trailer, or they go to have some food, that's the job of the second assistant director, to take care of them after they're done acting. Now, some bigger movies will have what's called a second assistant director. I don't know why that's what they call it. But now some people call them the third assistant director. This is when the actors go home for the day. Usually it takes more than one day to make a movie, so the actors can't actually go home. They usually live in a hotel or like in a friend's house nearby. And if the actors or the crew need anything after the workday is over, that's the job of the third assistant director. Also working with the director are the screenwriters. Screenwriters are the people who actually write the film. But in Hollywood especially, writing is not considered the most important job. So often what will happen is you have one person who comes up with the story and they write down like a 3-page, it's called a treatment, to explain the story. Then they sell that treatment to like a movie company, and the movie company hires somebody to turn those 3 pages into 100 pages of script. And then the second writer submits the script, and like the movie company or the director says, pretty good, we can make it better. They return it to the writer revises, hand it back, they go back and forth. If the company or the director feels like this writer cannot do the job, they will take the script and give it to a third writer, and that writer can have a try. And they'll keep doing this until finally they are satisfied with what they have. So when you see like written by, sometimes you will see A and B. That means that this person finished the job, the second person started the job. Sometimes you will see A and then the and symbol, the ampersand, right? A and B. This means that A and B work together at the same time. These are two different things. And then sometimes you will see written by, and then after that, story by. So this person created the story, those first 3 pages. Writing in Hollywood can be a very long and complicated process. Okay, so now we have the scripts, and they start shooting the movie. But, you know, you have a plan, but when you try to turn it into a movie, there will always be some kind of problem. Something has changed. Or when the director is trying to make it work, they realize, no, that's a bad idea. We need to do something else. So the writer will sometimes keep working with the director and actors to change things as needed. But also there are times when the writer will just not be there and it's the director and the actors who change the script when needed. And so when you look for a movie script, you will sometimes find two kinds. The first kind is called the final script. This is the thing written by the writer. Then you might find something called the shooting script. This is the version that the director used to make the movie. They're not always the same thing. Okay, and also working with the director, you have executive producers. Executive producer is a title that means these people helped in some important way. Maybe they are experts who gave good advice. Maybe they are friends of the director who helped out in big ways and small. Maybe they are very powerful people in the movie business who helped convince other people to join this movie. Maybe they're just some rich white bastard who donated money. In some way, they helped to make this movie. So, like I just said, offer guidance and support. Then we have technical experts. The director has an idea, but sometimes you have to make sure that the idea makes sense. If it's a historical movie, you want historical consultants. If it's about some kind of subculture, you want an expert about that culture. So you have technical experts and various other necessary people. Always a lot of people on a movie set. So when talking about direction, the two vocabulary items we can remember are two different aspects of directing: acting direction and camera direction. Acting direction is when the director talks to the actors and tells them how they should do the scene. Camera direction is when the director talks to the camera people to tell them where should the camera go, what should the camera do. Now, how do you become a director? Most people start from a different department, and then slowly they feel like, I have some ideas. I want to make a movie. And so they go to the people that they know from the business. They convince somebody to give them money with an idea, and then they can go and make their movie. This means that directors have different specialties. Some directors are former actors, and so they have really good acting direction, but they haven't really thought too much about the camera. And so for camera direction, they might rely more on their camera people. Sometimes you have camera people who will become directors, and the direction is flipped. Sometimes you have people who are from other departments, and they know a lot about that, but they need some help with the other stuff. So different directors have different strengths and weaknesses. Very, very rarely you will have a director who knows everything. Very rare. But most of the time, filmmaking is a collaborative effort, not just because there's so much to do, but also because the ideas also need improvement from everyone to help out. Okay, questions about directing? All right, moving on. Production. So the director has an idea. Now we have to make that idea a movie. Production is mostly administrative. How do we get the resources to make this movie? The person in charge of production is called the producer. They control the money and the time. Usually not personally. Usually they work for a company, and the company will say, okay, you can use this much money and you have this much time. The producer has to try to make sure that the film crew does not spend more than the budget and follows the schedule. And film crews can be very big, so this is a very hard job. The bigger the movie, the more people the producer will need to help them. So that's the second line. All of these people help the producer. That's their entire job. If it's a very small movie, maybe there's nobody from this line. But if it's a slightly bigger movie, you might have a line producer. If it's an even bigger movie, you would also have a production manager And then associate producers, production assistants. Production assistants are basically, they do all of the dirty work. If you need coffee, they go get coffee. If you forgot to bring your coat, they go home and grab your coat for you. Now, associate producer, this is the fun one. They are not exactly in charge of things, but they're also not the person buying coffee. It's somewhere in the middle. They do things that help the movie, but you're not exactly sure what they do. But if you don't have them and it's a big movie, you're gonna need them. They're like manpower, right? You need people. You're not sure why you need people, but in case you do need people, those people are the associate producers. Then we have the production designer. The director has an idea about what kind of time period, what kind of space. The production designer adds the details. So like if the director says, we're gonna make a cowboy movie, a general idea of what this town looks like, what the background looks like, but then the production designer will come in and say, okay, how many buildings do you want? How old are they? How much sand? How much wind? Right, the details. Next, we have the location manager. If you are going outside to make your movie, then you need to find places to go. Location managers, they help the director find a location, and then they help the director make sure they have the right to use that location. Like, if you find a store that looks amazing and it would fit perfectly into your movie, you can't just bring a camera in and start shooting. Like there's somebody who owns the store. There are customers. They're trying to make money. So you have to negotiate for the right to use that space. Usually that will take money. So like if you see like a movie set in New York City and like two characters are walking into a store, I can guarantee you, everybody in that store is an actor. That store has been bought out for like 2 days. So the location manager negotiates with the store owner to say, like, how much do you usually make in these 2 days? We'll give you that money. And of course, the store owner will give you a really high number, location manager will give you a really low number, and they negotiate. Now, sometimes the location itself is not enough. It's almost what the director wants. The location manager also helps to change the look of that location. So for example, if you're making a historical movie and you think this shop looks great, but it looks too 2026. We need it to look like 1890. Location manager will go in, will hire people to transform the inside of the store. Or sometimes you find a great location in like a park, but you need a building in that park. The location manager will get some people, work with the production designer to build a building in that space. And then after they're done shooting at that location, they will return the store to its original condition. They will remove the building and return the park to what it was before. It is very important that you return things to the way they are. And so one result of this is that a lot of carpenter work or like art design, like artistic people, they work on movies. They create things, the camera captures the images, and then they take those things down and throw them away. And that's one reason movies can be very expensive. Today, if you go to Hollywood and you make a movie with a $1 million US budget, that is considered a very low budget movie. Okay, who else do we have? Grips, they move things around. Gaffers, they work with electricity, like lights and sound. And then you have all the other people you need to take care of everybody. Caterers do the food. Drivers move people around. Medics make sure you don't get hurt. If you do get hurt, they take care of you. And then all the other necessary people you need to take care of everybody. All of these are part of the production department. So some vocabulary we can learn here. We talked about production, right? It's the part of filmmaking where you actually record the images. The set is where you record those images. If you are recording those images, you are on set. If you leave that space, you are off the set. If you're indoors, but you need a big space, that space is called a sound stage. So like maybe you've heard like, oh, they built a huge building inside this giant space. That giant space is a sound stage. It's often better than outdoors because you don't have to deal with weather. You don't have to deal with strange lighting. You don't have to deal with tourists. You can control everything. A studio lot is you're working in a space that is outdoors, but everything is created for the movie. If you're actually outdoors in a real place, that is called a location. And if you are at that place, you are on location. Okay, questions about production? All right, let's take a short break. We're almost at break time. We'll come back and we'll keep going with the acting. I think I forgot to mention that this semester, I'm only going to be recording this week. So like if you miss class next week, there's not going to be a recording. Okay, so acting. Acting is a really mysterious process. It's not just pretending that you're somebody else because it's not just about you. You have to read the lines on the paper. Usually when we create a character or we pretend to be somebody, we have an idea of the person and then we think about what would this person say. But for acting, it's reversed. First, you have what does this person say? And from those words, you have to create a character. It's kind of like learning how to ride a bicycle by watching other people ride bicycle. It's very illogical. So I'm very in awe of good actors who can do this very well. And usually there are two main ways to create that character. Based on the words, you can first think about what would the character say, what would the character do? What are some body language or what are some actions? What are some attitudes? And then from the outside, try to figure out what do they care about? What are they afraid of? The inside. Other actors will work from the inside out. So from the words that they say, they think about what are they thinking about? What do they care about? And then given these concerns, what would they do? What would they sound like? How would they behave? Both ways are fine. You can tell if you look at enough acting, you can tell which actors use which kind of acting, but both can have good results. This is just a very basic idea. There are many, many schools of thought about how to do good acting, but in general, it's these two directions. So to find actors, you usually need a casting director. These people know a lot of actors. They have watched a lot of audition tapes. So if you tell the casting director, we need somebody who can do this, this, and this, who looks like that, that, and that, they will have some people in mind, and they will go and see if those actors are willing to join the film. Usually this is for the smaller roles. For the huge stars, it will usually be the director themselves who go to find the big stars. But there are many actors on every film, and that's why you need a casting director. And then you have the actors. When you put all the actors together, that is called the cast. All the actors, just like if you put all of the teachers together, that is called the faculty. If you put all of the workers together, that is called the staff. So all the actors together is called the cast. To help these actors look like those characters, you need hair, makeup, costume, and wardrobe designer. So usually when you're looking for an actor, you're looking for their skill and you're looking for their general shape, but you can change everything else about an actor. Change their hair, hairstyle, hair color. You can change what their face looks like. You can make them look fatter, or you can ask them to lose weight and look skinnier. You can decide what kind of clothing they wear. You can like design that from the bottom up. You can think about like what they put on their heads, jewelry, even their shoes. You can even ask an actor to change the way they talk or change the way they walk. And that's where we have the next line. Dialect coaches. A dialect is the way that you sound when you are talking. Stand-ins. So when making a movie, it's not just about like putting an actor there and then recording. You want to make sure that your lighting is what you want it to be. You want to make sure that the background looks perfect. You want to make sure that the angles work. There is a lot of time on set devoted to setting the equipment. And you want to make sure that the actor looks good in that space. None of this is acting. So many films will hire stand-ins, people who look like the actor, and you get them to stand there, and then you can adjust the lights, you can adjust the sound to make sure everything is great. And then you bring in the actual actor and you let them act. This also saves money because stand-ins cost less money. You also need stand-ins for like, we're going to talk about stunts later, but also for like sex scenes. Some actors will say they do not want to take off their clothes. But if you need a sex scene, you can hire a stand-in who is willing to take off their clothes, and you just have to make sure you don't get their face. And if their body looks like the actor's body, it could feel real as well. And that leads us to intimacy coordinators. This is the newest job on a film set. In the past, and this is related to scenes of intimacy, usually sex scenes, but not always. Sometimes, even if it's just for like a kissing scene, there might be an intimacy coordinator. Their job is to make sure everybody knows what's going to happen, so there are no surprises, nothing that will make the actors feel unsafe. And so before we had intimacy coordinators, basically an actor would just do a sex scene. Sometimes, a lot of times there would be no problem. Sometimes there would be problems and actors might get hurt emotionally or psychologically. An intimacy coordinator is there to make sure nothing goes wrong. And then you have other necessary people. Anything you need to work with the actors to change how they behave to fit the movie. So sometimes you will have experts to teach the actor how to do something. So like you guys have seen La La Land, right? Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone. In that movie, Ryan Gosling plays the piano. Ryan Gosling does not know how to play the piano. They hired somebody to teach him to play that song and only that song. Or like if an actor has to ride a horse, you need somebody to manage the horse. If an actor like has to do some cooking and they don't know how to cook, you need to hire somebody to teach the actor how to cook. So all the necessary people you need to help the actor do their job. And related to acting, we also have some vocabulary we can remember. A line is a sentence of dialogue spoken by an actor. Dialogue is all of the line. Line delivery is the way that an actor says that line. We know that every line, there are many different ways you can say it. You can add many different emotions onto the same words. The way that the actor chooses to do it is their line delivery. And their choice is called an acting choice. So how do you turn the words on the page into a performance? Through choices. How do you say the words? What do you do with your body? What is your attitude in this scene? Those are all acting choices. And then we have two main kinds of acting. The first kind is voice acting, using your voice to convey emotions. This is especially important for like animations and cartoons. So like some of the best actors are not very good voice actors because for an animation, you can't use your body. Voice actors are specially trained to put all of that emotion, all of that acting into the voice. Then you have physical acting, which is when you use your body as your main instrument to express an idea or to express emotions. So if you see an actor crying, that's physical acting. If you see the way they leave a room, like slamming the door or quietly closing the door, that's physical acting. Questions about acting? Okay, I should add one more thing. A lot of movie stars are not good actors, and a lot of actors are not big movie stars. Or actually, a lot of good actors are not big movie stars. A movie star is an actor where whatever their character, doesn't matter what kind of person, when you see the actor, you know what you're going to get. It's because you know and you like that kind of acting. That's why you go to see this movie star. Tom Cruise. I say the name, you think of action movies. It doesn't matter the name of the character. It doesn't matter what's wrong in the world. You know it's going to be an action movie. That's a movie star. Good actors who are not movie stars kind of disappear into their character. For every movie, they play a different kind of person. And every time it is very convincing. Those kinds of actors are called character actors. So movie stars and character actors, two different kinds of acting. Okay, next up we have cinematography or the camera department. The word cinematography looks like photography, right? Photography, taking pictures, cinematography, recording video. It comes from, often we call movies cinema. This word comes from the Greek kinema or kine, which means movement. That's why we call them movies, because they move. The formal official name for a movie is called a motion picture. It's a picture with motion, with movement. And then sometimes we call them film, right? Film literature. Film is the thing that you put the images on, 胶卷. That's called a film. We'll talk about that here. The camera department is run by the cinematographer, also called the director of photography. Their job is to work with the director to make sure the kind of images that the director wants is recorded. And then for a small movie, they pick up the camera. For a big movie, they manage the people who pick up the camera. But they are in charge of the way that the movie looks. Now, there are two parts to this, which is when you have an image, what is the color, what is the focus, what is the high quality or low quality lighting. The other part is where do you put the camera? Where do you put the camera is actually camera direction. It's the director's job. The cinematographer can work with the director, give suggestions, analyze choices, but it's the director's job to say, okay, put the camera here, move the camera there. But it is the cinematographer's job to get that image. There are two parts to creating an image. One is the camera, the other is the lighting. You can't have an image without light, but there are many different kinds of light, many ways to use light. And the cinematographer is in charge of both. Okay, so you have camera operators and lighting technicians. Those are the people who actually use the camera, who actually set up the lights. Uh, yeah, let's talk about lights. Okay, so first you have light colors, right? You can have white light like this. You can have like slightly blue light. You can have this crazy yellow light. How do you change the color of a light? You can go and buy new lights every time, but to make a movie, you need very, very strong lights, and some uh, don't have, some colors are not available for this kind of strong light. So usually, how do you change the color? You buy a covering or like a gel cover. You put it onto the light and it changes the color. The problem is movie lights are very, very hot. If you cover the thing, you might start a fire. So the third way to do this is for each individual shot, put something onto the camera, not the light, the camera. Of course, the disadvantage is you can't have complicated colors. You can only have like one or two colors. It's a trade-off. You have to find the best method for each shot. Not each movie, not each scene, each shot. And so that's also why movies take a long time to make. Okay, the next one, focus pulling. The focus is the part of the image that you want to see clearly. 标志. When you pick up your phone or your camera phone and you take a picture, the camera grabs the focus for you. It's automatic. But when you make a movie, some directors want something to be out of focus, 死角. Some directors want to shift focus. We call that a rack focus. So it can't be automatic. It has to be under the director's control. What this means is for every shot, again, every shot, you need to know how far away is your focus. That is the job of the focus puller. They literally go around and like, well, okay, when the actor's position is decided, when the camera's placement is decided, the focus puller comes in with a laser and measures how far it is. In the old days, they would use an actual tape measure. And so this can get kind of exciting if your camera is moving in very strange ways. Sometimes you have to guess. And that's very, very exciting. Because if you guess wrong, you have to redo the whole thing. Okay, next is the colorist or the color timer. So when you record a movie, you have the idea of what color you want, but how do you adjust your image to create that specific color? You could work with the lights, you could put something on the camera, but to really get a very specific color, you need a specialist to adjust everything. It's called a color timer because in the old days, when you would record onto a plastic film, the way you change the color is you put all the film into a chemical and you count the time. So like the stronger the color, the longer you wait. So it's a color timer. Today, of course, you use a computer, but the name is the same. Okay, so some of the vocabulary we can use here, and this vocabulary is very, very common. If you talk about movies with somebody, you will use these words. The frame or the camera frame, this is the edge of the image. If you see something in the image, it is in frame. If something is part of the scene, but you don't see it inside the image, it is out of frame. So for example, if I'm talking to somebody and the camera focuses on them and you don't see me, I am out of frame. We're talking, I'm in the scene, but I'm out of frame. Next, a close-up. This is a shot that's very close to your object. In Chinese, we call this 特写. A long shot is when the camera is very far away from the target. And then everything in the middle is called a mid-length shot. Okay, so now you're thinking, where's the boundary between like a close-up and a mid-length and a long shot? Like, how do we decide? And the answer is, I don't know. It depends. As long as everybody agrees on what you're talking about, that's fine. But usually, a mid-length shot goes from the waist up. If you can see their upper body but not their legs, that's usually a mid-length shot. And then anything closer is a close-up, anything further is a long shot. Okay, questions about cinematography? Okay, let's move on to editing, the editorial department. You have captured a lot of images. Now you need to put them together. That's the job of the editor. Now, it sounds easy, but usually when you make a movie, it's not just about cutting off the beginning and the end and putting the rest together. Sometimes the director will say, I don't know, let's try it from another angle, or let's have the actor do it a different way, or let's change the lighting a little bit. And so the same scene might exist in 5 or 6 different versions. And it is the editor's job to choose the version that works best for the film. So it's not just about putting it together. You have to make choices. Of course, the editor will work with the director. But you do need an expert director because when you watch a movie, as we just saw, 1 second is a very long time. So when you're editing, you want to make sure you are very, very accurate. How long do you want the audience to see this image? Yeah, that it's not too hard to explain, but now we have some vocabulary. A frame is a single image. So when we're talking about the camera, the frame is the boundary. But when we're talking about editing, the frame is a single image. A movie camera runs at 24 frames per second. Every second, it captures 24 images. And frames per second is FPS. So again, editing is a lot of work. Next, the next word is footage. If all of the actors is called the cast, then all of the images together is called the footage. Why is it called footage? Because of the word foot, feet. It's a length. In Chinese, 英尺. Right? So footage is literally how long, what is the length of the amount of film that you have recorded. Okay, a take. A take is when you start the camera all the way to when you stop the camera. That is 1 take. And if the camera goes for a really long time, we call that a long take. So like sometimes you see in a movie, the camera follows the actor over here, over there, and it just keeps following the actor. That is a long take. Traditionally, a long take is at most 20 minutes, because after 20 minutes, you run out of film. But today, we use digital film. You never run out, almost. So you can have a whole movie in 1 take. Next, a shot. So like when you're shooting a movie, maybe you have the same scene and then you have the actor do it a different way. You change the lighting. You have like 5 takes for 1 scene. And then the editor has to choose which one do I put in. The one that the editor puts in is called a shot. It's a chosen take. It is part of the final film. Next, the word cut. When you move from 1 image to the next image, that is called a cut. It's called a cut because traditionally an editor would take the film and cut when they wanted to end that shot and then stick it with glue onto the beginning of the next shot. Today, of course, it's all digital. So a cut is the break, and it's also the putting together. You use 1 word for both ideas. There are different ways to cut. Sometimes the image will slowly fade to black and then come back. Sometimes the first image will fade to the second image. Sometimes you just directly jump from one to the next. That one is called a smash cut. When you go directly from one image to the next image, no transition. That's a smash cut. If you keep cutting, like we just saw in Salt, many cuts in a very short amount of time, those are called fast cuts or fast cutting. Okay, next, a scene. So like when you have several shots in the same space, focusing on the same people, about the same idea, that is called a scene. But the shots that make that scene are called a sequence. So if you're talking about like what the actors are doing, then you're talking about the scene. If you're talking about first is this shot, then is that shot, then is that shot, you're talking about the sequence. And then finally, a montage is a specific kind of sequence that shows time passing quickly. In Chinese, we call this 蒙太奇. It's French. In French, the word montage just means editing. But because when Hollywood was learning how to make movies, a lot of the time they were looking at French films that did this, right? Used editing to move time faster. So they took this word for this meaning. So the most common types are like when the character learns a new skill, like training, or like in the middle of a romance, like when the two lead actors get to know each other better and time passes quickly. Those are all common kinds of montage sequences. Okay, questions about editing? Okay, let's move on to the next one, the sound department. Up to this point, we've been talking about images mostly, but there's also sound, and sound is a whole different ballgame. You need a sound designer to work with the director to make sure they understand what the director wants the sound to be like. This includes sound effects, dialogue sound, and the music. Those are the three main kinds of sound. So the first one, sound effects. Here's the thing. When you make a movie, have you ever thought like when you're outdoors, you're with friends or family in like a park and you record them on your phone? What is the loudest noise you always hear? The wind. But you never hear that in a movie. Why not? Because they're not recording the actual sound. Most of the sound in a Hollywood movie is added afterward. Most of it. So if you do hear wind, it's because there's some guy in a studio creating a wind noise, not because you're recording the wind. That kind of sound effect is called a Foley, made by a Foley artist. It's called a Foley because the first guy to do this was named Jack Foley. They just took his name. So the most famous one is like the sound of a horse walking on stone. It sounds kind of like two coconut shells hanging together. So the way that a Foley artist makes a sound can be very different from what you see on the screen. For example, have you ever like got into a physical fight with somebody? Like you're punching somebody, they're kicking you. Is it a very loud noise when you're in a fight? Not really. Like what does a fist on clothing sound like? It's very quiet. But when you watch a movie, fights are very loud. Every punch, right? Every kick, they add those sounds later, and they are nothing like what it actually sounds like to get into a fight. They had to find a way to make a sound that sounds like it would be a fight. It sounds convincing to an audience who has never actually been in a fight. So the job of the Foley artist is not to create realistic sounds. The job is to create convincing sounds. At the same time, you don't have to hear everything. In daily life, there are so many sounds that we ignore everywhere. So the Foley artist only has to make sounds for what the movie wants us to notice. The sound of walking, the sound of opening and closing doors, the sound of typing. But you don't always need to hear like the air conditioning. You don't always need to hear the teacher shouting in the other classroom. The Foley artist only creates the sound that you need to hear to make it sound convincing. Okay, next one, ADR, automated dialogue replacement. So as I said, most sound is recorded afterward, including the actor's line delivery. If you're shooting indoors and there's no extra sound, that's fine. You can just take what they say. But if you're shooting outdoors, there's wind, there's traffic, there's tourists, there's like a dog barking. You need to add their dialogue after. So what happens is they would go into a recording studio, and then they're for a certain scene, they play that shot again and again and again, and the actor recreates their voice acting and record that later. Not an easy thing to do. This also explains, like, have you ever seen one of those like Hong Kong action movies? And you can tell that the actors are not actually saying the words, even if it looks very close. That's why. They didn't do a perfect job in ADR. For Hong Kong, that's fine. You don't go to see Jackie Chan talk, you go to see him fight. But for like drama, this is very important. This is also how voice actors add their voice for animation. You show like a single section of animation and you repeat it and you repeat it until the voice acting is perfect, and then you move on to the next section. Okay, next, the composer. If you have background music, that's called the score. Then you need somebody to create the score and to find performers to play the instruments. There are two ways to make a score. One is the director finishes the movie, gives it to the composer, and the composer makes a score. The other way is the director finishes a sequence and then gives it to the composer. Composer comes up with some ideas. The director finishes another sequence, gives it to the composer, and then when the composer is done, they bring the music to the director, and then they adjust the movie so that the music and the movie match. Both ways can work very well. It just depends on what the director likes to do. Today, most composers don't write the music themselves. They have a studio of workers. The composer will choose a musical theme, like it should sound something like this. And then for each scene, we'll say, change it in this way, change it in that way, and then give those instructions to their workers. And their workers will write the actual music, and then the composer will do some adjustments. You guys know the name Hans Zimmer? He doesn't write his own music anymore. He used to. And now he has people who write it with him. Okay, now you have these three kinds of sound effects, dialogue, and music. Now you need to put them together. That is the job of the sound editor. You have an image editor, you also have a sound editor. So the sound editor has to make sure that the sounds make sense, but they also have to make sure the sounds fit the images. You ever seen a movie where the sound just seems a little bit off? You can see the actor close the door, but you hear it like a little bit later. That's the fault of the sound editor. They didn't get the timing exactly right. This is kind of hard though, because light and sound travel at different speeds. So on a computer, it could be exactly the same moment, but in a theater, it could feel a little bit late. So it does take expertise and experience to do a good job. Finally, you have a sound mixer. In Chinese, we call this 混音师. They mix the sound. What does that mean? So we have at least 3 different kinds of sound for each image. How loud should each one be? Sound effects, dialogue, music. Which one should be first? Which one should be second? Which one should be most obvious? which one should be barely there. That is the job of the sound mixer. So you can say that the sound editor adds the correct sounds. The sound mixer controls which sound you notice, which sounds you pay attention to. The sound mixer works frame by frame. Again, not shot by shot, frame by frame, one image at a time. They'll say, okay, at this point, the balance should be like this. We'll keep the similar balance, but then we start moving the balance a bit. When we get to that point, the music should be louder, the sound effects should be quieter through the whole movie. So usually it's the editing and the sound editing and the sound mixing that make up most of the time of post-production. After you're done recording the images, you're going to spend a lot of time doing this. Okay, questions about sound? Okay, oh, we're almost done. Yeah, we have enough time. Okay, effects. So this is all of the crazy stuff. So you have your basics, you have your images, you have your sounds, but what if you want to create something that you normally would not see in daily life? It could be like a fight or an explosion or like magic or monsters, right? These are all part of the effects department. There are two kinds of effects. A special effect, or SFX, is something that you record in the camera. So you create the effect kind of like in real life, and then you use a camera to record it. Of course, you might have to adjust things later, but you basically have it on camera. A visual effect, or VFX, is 100% created after you're done. This is all in post-production. So this is when like you're making a movie and like, oh, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. is acting with a tennis ball, and then later on they turn that tennis ball into like a monster. That's VFX. So let's talk about SFX first. Some classic ways to make things look real that are not real. Trick angles and forced perspective. You can create things so that if you look at them this way, it looks very special. But if you look at them from a slightly different perspective, it doesn't make any sense at all. The classic example here is in The Lord of the Rings. The hobbits are really small. Sometimes you have hobbits sitting at the same table with humans. How do you make the hobbits look smaller? You find a specific angle and shoot it so that it looks like the hobbits are smaller, but in fact, maybe they're like further away or their seats are lower, right? So you can use specific angles to create special effects. This works in movies because you don't need to have the real thing. It only has to be real from this particular angle. That's it. Next, we have matte paintings. This is still done today, but it was more popular before the digital filmmaking began, which is sometimes in like an older movie, you will see people outdoors on location, and it will be a beautiful setting, trees, sun, water, and then you'll see in the background like a mountain or like a valley or like a city. That background is fake. It's a painting. Matte painting can be made to look very, very real because it's supposed to be far away. It's supposed to be out of focus. So you don't need every single detail. And of course, it's much cheaper to make a painting rather than go to like Cancun or like Tibet to have a real, actual, fantastic location. Another kind of background trick is called rear projection. So instead of a painting, if you need the background to move, you would set up a projection screen and you have a projector on the other side and it shines the image that you need onto the projector so it looks like the back is moving. If you see older movies, people driving in cars and the background doesn't make sense, that's because they're using rear projection. Next, models and miniatures. Instead of building a real submarine, you make a small submarine and you put it in a small pool of water with a tiny camera and you pretend like it's a huge submarine. If you're making a Star Wars movie and you need a huge fighter jet or a huge battleship, you don't need to like create a huge thing. You can make a tiny thing and you can move it little by little and capture it frame by frame. If you see claymation, animated movies using clay, 粘土动画, those are all models and miniatures. That's how they do that, right? You take a photo and then you adjust the hand a little bit. You take another photo, you adjust it a little bit, you take another photo. Next, explosions. Sounds easy, right? You go boom, that's it. No, explosions are also very carefully designed. First of all, there are two parts to an explosion: the heat and the force. You want to increase the heat because it looks better, and you want to decrease the force because the force will knock you back. You know, like in an action movie, the hero finally kills the bad guy and they walk away, and behind them, like a car blows up, a huge fireball. You know that is a movie explosion because in real life, before you see the fire, the actor would have been knocked down by force. Only in a movie where they design the explosion to look good, where they add chemicals and other materials to make the fire brighter and more orange and bigger, but they don't increase the force. So explosion, and that's where you need experts who can manage that kind of thing. Next, you have stunts. Stunts are any action, like a fight, where somebody could get hurt. So to make sure nobody gets hurt, you have stunt coordinators and stunt people. A stunt coordinator designs the action. A fight in a movie is like a dance. The actors prearrange. Okay, here I'm gonna punch you here, you block me here, I kick you there. It's a dance. They just do it very fast. So that's designed by the stunt coordinator. And then if it really is dangerous, or like the actor can't do it well enough, they will hire somebody who looks like the actor to do that part of the performance because they have more experience. They are less likely to be hurt. This is for fights. This could be for anything dangerous. If you have a scene where a character like is leaning over a balcony and almost about to fall, that's a stunt. If there's any danger, it's a stunt. Okay, so those are the in-camera special effects. Then we have the post-production visual effects. So the most obvious ones are the opening titles and end credits. There are no real words floating around in space, right? Those are added afterwards. But these can be also quite interesting. If you've seen like a James Bond movie, the opening credits are famous for their design. Not just a list of people, right? There's images, there's like theme music. The opening titles can be very important for a movie. Sometimes the end credits will also have some really cool designs, like Disney Pixar movies like to do this. Not just a list of people, right? The words are designed. You see the pictures of the characters. That can also be quite fun. Next, we have blue screen and green screen compositing. It's a way to replace images. So I was talking about Robert Downey Jr. acting with the tennis ball. How do you replace the tennis ball with a monster? First of all, you make sure that the ball is green, and then you make sure that the background is all green. And in post-production, you open up a computer program and you say, hey, replace the color green with this picture. So now you don't see a tennis ball, you don't see a green background, you see a monster against some kind of environment. And this technology is used every day on the news when they show you the weather. How do they get some guy to stand in front of a changing map? Okay, today they use digital like images, but in the past, you would put the guy in front of a green screen and you would add the images in post-production while the guy is moving around and saying, oh, today, tomorrow, the weather. So this is very old technology. Now, the downside, pretty obviously, you cannot have anything in that color of green. Or if you use blue, you cannot have anything with that color of blue. Otherwise, it too will be replaced. Okay, next is rotoscoping. This is not replacement according to color. This is replacement according to your own manual decision. So like you take a film image and you take a digital pen today and you draw around the things that you want to keep or replace. You separate the image. And then you tell the computer, okay, keep this or replace everything else, or keep everything but replace this. That's called rotoscoping. You have to go frame by frame, image by image, and you have to make sure each image looks like the previous one. It's a lot more work, but you can do more detailed adjustments. Next, you have motion capture. So this is combining blue screen and green screen, but instead of an object, you have a person wearing that color, and you're going to replace that person with like a creature or a monster in post-production. But the key here is it's not just the color. You also have like dots, right, on their face or on their body. These dots tell the computer. So like if I have dots on my arm, it'll tell the computer, okay, so replace this with the monster's arm. Or like if you have dots on your face, you can say replace the human face with the monster face. And so you can get a human performance of a non-human creation. Because when the actor moves, it's a human kind of movement, but you're replacing the like image with the image of a monster. The most famous example is again from Lord of the Rings. Gollum, the guy who says "my precious ring," was done using motion capture. You're not going to find an actor who looks like Gollum. You can find an actor that's roughly the same body size as Gollum and can make similar facial expressions. And then you make them put on like a green costume, add the dots, and you replace them with Gollum later. There's a famous bad example. You guys know the movie Cats? Terrible movie. Nobody liked it. And nobody working on the movie liked it either because the director forgot to add the dots. So you just replace the color with random pictures of cats. So instead, what the post-production animators, again, frame by frame, had to figure out, okay, so like this part of the cat face matches that part of the actor's face. Every single frame. It took them fucking forever. Nobody likes that director anymore. So that's how motion capture works. And then finally, if you really need just like something really special, you can't create any part of it in the real world, you would use CGI, computer generated imagery. You turn nothing into something. But even for this, the CGI artists often have a real world example to base their work on. A lot of movies today say no CGI. No, everybody uses CGI. When Tom Cruise does a Mission Impossible movie, he says no CGI, there is CGI. What he means is he did those stunts to give the CGI artists a reference so that when they create the image, it'll look exactly like what Tom Cruise did. But there's always CGI. The most recent one is F1. You guys go see that one? Brad Pitt driving a race car. They also said no. See, we did use actual race cars. We put the actors in actual cars, and they did for reference. And then later they went back and used CGI to create those scenes. Okay, and then like the newest part of special effects is when you combine in-camera special effects with post-production visual effects into virtual production. This is really cool. So like a virtual set is where it's an empty space and the actors are wearing mocap costumes and whatever. Some actors are real actors. Some actors are preparing for CGI, and you have a virtual camera. It moves around in real space, but you're not looking at what's in front of you. You're looking at the digital environment you have built to fit onto this space. So it's like using a digital a virtual camera, but it's a real object so that the camera operator and the director can have the feeling of a real space and real gravity and real people moving around. But the image is all CGI. And then you have LED walls. Today, instead of matte painting, instead of rear projection, sometimes even instead of going on location, they will use huge LED walls and then create the image of the outdoors that they need on those LED screens. Dune, 我往下修, was not, okay, it was shot in a desert, but a lot of scenes were not shot outdoors. They were shot on a stage with LED screens that gave you the image of a desert. Saves time, it's safer, really cool thing. Okay, questions about effects? Okay, so just to remind you, next week I will not be recording. So please come to class, make sure you're here. Next week, we're going to begin by watching Day for Night. And then afterwards, I'm going to talk about animation and documentary and maybe like some special topics related to movies. Okay, see you next week.